says Israel's running out of interceptors and are critically low. Israel has informed the U.S. it's running critically low on ballistic missile interceptors as the conflict with Iran continues, U.S. official told Semaphore. A U.S. official said Washington had been aware of Israel's limited interceptor capacity for months, adding, "It's something we expected and anticipated." The official stressed that the U.S. military is not facing a similar shortage of interceptors. Maybe the calculation changes for Israel. By the way, understand something. This is not something you can make up for with money. Okay? You need materials. Like, remember when America had to dive into the South Korean stockpile when Russia was diving into the North Korean stockpile of artillery shells? Because you can't just make up for the materials that are necessary to build the stockpile. Okay? Money doesn't automatically, magically turn cash into missiles. Tamir interceptors need to be built. At that point, it's like Israel becomes the major villain of the planet alongside the United States of America by deploying a nuke, or they have to calculate. They have to recalculate what their cost-benefit analysis is. Perhaps they don't get to destroy Iranian sovereignty after all, especially because maybe their sovereignty might be destroyed. You're looking at a very different analysis if Israeli interceptors are gone because they just don't have Tamir interceptor missiles, and America can't make up for that need in time. All of a sudden, that means the entirety of the Hezbollah stockpile of munitions are hitting targets inside of Israel. Okay? The Iranian ballistic missiles are hitting targets inside of Israel. That's a very different ball game. It's not a video game. You can't just like convert currency into Tamir interceptors magically and then your stockpile's replenished. It doesn't work that way. You have to build them. There's time. There's a lot of time it takes to build those shits. A lot of cost to it too. This is why Israel is beelining the Lebanon invasion, which is a dangerous mistake. In my opinion, that is also a dangerous miscalculation by Israel. Because they're so predisposed. The reason why they're doing that is partially because of this. Because Hezbollah can punish the fuck out of the entirety of Israel if Israel doesn't have Tamir interceptors. The Iron Dome. Because Israel's defense... Israel's like anti-ballistic missiles defense is not the Iron Dome. The Iron Dome is for smaller missiles that Hezbollah can launch with ease, like rocket launchers, things of that nature. If they run out of that, all of a sudden the Iron Dome is no longer. Hezbollah can punish the fuck out of regular Israeli society and change the calculation for Israeli society overnight. By the way, I know the conversation has primarily been about tactical side of things, but Harana, the org that reports on human rights violations in Iran primarily by the regime, has estimated that 12,098 civilians have died. Yeah, that's bullshit. The number is actually over 2,000. Harana is, at the end of the day, still an American-backed institution. And they're greatly underestimating the civilian casualty. Even American estimates are higher than that now. American estimates have put the number at, I believe it's close to 2,000 now. I'm worried they will just renegotiate a fake deal and develop laser ballistic defense interceptors and attack Iran again. Yeah, okay. Any kind of negotiation that leads to any kind of ceasefire for an extended period of time, at least enough time for Israel to shore up its defenses, is going to be a resounding victory for Iran. You understand that, right? That's the future you should be looking towards right now. It's as I said from the start, that's the best possible outcome here in this scenario. Because what do you think happens in peacetime? You think Iran is just going to sit around and not beef up their offensive striking capabilities, their defensive striking capabilities, immediately rush in IRGC military commanders to China to get trained on Chinese weapon systems, produce nukes instantly? The day after in Iran, if the Iranian government remains intact and Iran doesn't get pieced up, balkanized at the behest of Israel through like ethnic conflict or whatever they're trying to do, which, by the way, won't come when Israel wants it, won't come when America wants it. I think it'll come when Iran feels as though they have created grounds for necessary deterrence. Okay, so I don't even know what their victory condition looks like for them. But any kind of situation where America doesn't actually achieve, or Israel actually achieves their goals of completely creating a failed state right now, is going to be devastating for America's force projection capabilities that have now diminished, and for Israel's ambitions here. Pahlavi calls on his sleeper cells to activate against the IRGC. Good luck to him. Yes, but Iran inches once again closer to bankruptcy and civil unrest intensifies. Yeah, that's why I think they're trying to engage in maximum deterrence right now. Part of that is a withdrawal of American military and Israeli assets from the region. And part of that is going to be ease of sanctions. Iran will also obviously offer an olive branch to the American side here, because they understand that like America has to look like they're winning here, winning something here as well. They will definitely demand reparations, which is their right to do so, for the record. That's fair. My point was that even using the most conservative estimates, the civilian bloodshed has already superseded October 7, but the West is completely averse to the lives of Iranian civilians unless it's to cynically pursue a foreign policy interest regime change. Of course. Absolutely. And any kind of peace and stability in Iran will harden the regime's position and will cause them most likely to take a more hardline approach. I think they get nukes.
The moment an explosion rocked the capital city during an Al-Quds Day rally in solidarity with Palestinians. An interview with a demonstrator interrupted as the blast hit. Screams heard throughout the street. Plumes of smoke rising from a nearby building. Top Iranian officials, including Iran's president, who's been targeted by U.S. and Israeli strikes, seen walking in the crowd. The U.S. also...
This was crazy, by the way, because Americans were like, oh, dude, these guys are rats. They're hiding in tunnels. They're hiding in tunnels. And then they straight up went out in public amongst the masses and walked. That's a show of force. Twofold. One, it's propaganda, of course, before people say it's, anything but propaganda. The propaganda is to say, look, we're not afraid of our people. That's number one. in the way that you claim we are. Number two, it's to also say that we're not afraid of America. I've never seen someone MAGA missile before. Yeah. Oh, come on now. They know Israel can't kill people like that. Really? Israel. Our Israel, the Israel that we know. The Israel that we know shies away from wanton murder of civilians. Are we talking about the same? Do you know a different Israel than I do? Because they've been bombing hospitals. They were bombing hospitals in Lebanon not that long ago. Like, I mean, yesterday they were bombing a Lebanese hospital. Not my Israel, he said. Guy who's been in a fucking coma and only woke up just now.
Announcing a $10 million reward for information on the whereabouts of Iran's new supreme leader, Moshtaba Khamenei, and other top Iranian officials, some who were seen at that demonstration. And this morning, new images obtained by Con 11 showing one of the damaged refueling planes involved in.
Guy came in hot. He's like Jeffrey Epstein, the New York financier, the Playboy. Is that who we're talking about?
That deadly crash in western Iraq, killing all 6 Americans on board. While they have not yet been identified, at least 3 were Ohioans deployed with the Ohio Air National Guard's 121st Air Refueling Wing, according to the state's governor. An urgent investigation underway. So far, the Pentagon says the crash was not due to hostile or friendly fire.
War is hell. War is chaos.
Dude, oh, God. Oh, it's always, his statements on this stuff is always womp womp. Like, he literally, war, this sucks, you know? It's just how it is, guys.
And as we saw with the tragic crash of our KC-135 tanker, bad things can happen. American heroes, all of them.
At least 13 American service members are known to have died participating in this operation so far. And leaders in the region and across the globe now renewing their calls for an immediate end to this war. Gio.
All right, so many looking at that. Marcus Moore, thank you for your reporting there from Qatar.
But we begin with this morning's top story, the escalating war in Iran. 2 weeks after it first began, President Trump says the U.S. military conducted strikes on Karg Island. That's a vital oil hub in the region. Now, in a Truth Social post, the president said the strikes targeted military sites on the island and warned Iran's oil infrastructure could be next if the Iranian blockade of the Strait of Hormuz continues.
And the cost of the war is being felt here at home. Benchmark crude oil prices rose again.
You want to know the worst possible outcome for 2028? Tucker Carlson runs on an anti-Israel platform in 2028, and the Democrats put forward a pro-liberal Zionist, pro-defending America's military might candidate. Tucker Carlson wins by Ronald Reagan numbers, not only by winning over the MAGA crowd, which he has complete control over, in my opinion, but also on top of that, a lot of independents and maybe even some liberals. The Democratic Party is done. The next wave of fascism is here. Like, the more accelerated version of fascism is here. He actually does, unironically, put the mass deportations regime in place. That's what I'm afraid of.
He says he's running against me for president. I almost want to run for president just to debate Ted Cruz, because I think it would go about the way it went last time. And for my part, I deeply enjoyed it, which is why I've never tweeted about it. For Ted Cruz.
Tucker Carlson versus Gavin Newsom is unlimited Tucker Carlson victory, by the way. Like, I'm letting you know right now. Everyone's gonna be like, but what about trans people? Okay, they're gonna be like, but Gavin Newsom is like pro-gay. Gavin Newsom will signal that he's like also in favor of, you know, limiting the pro-trans sentiment from his side because he wants to appeal to the mythical moderate center. Oof. Oof. Tucker Carlson's like, you're Israel first. You're an attack dog. You're a lapdog for Israel. I can't even tell what your positions are. One day you say Israel's an apartheid. You get a boss call from all of the Israel lobbyists. And next day you come out and you say, actually, Israel's not an apartheid. Americans need someone who actually can stand on moral principles. And as a Christian, I think genocide is unconscionable. What's going on? You see, Tucker, you're being quite anti-Semitic. No, I love Jews. I love Jews. I can't stand what Israel has done to my Jewish friends. What's going on? Ronald Reagan victory condition, okay? Spoiler alert. Gavin Newsom doesn't win that battle. Tucker Carlson wins that battle.
Everybody knows the only reason we're having this war is because Israel wants it. This is their last chance, they believe. This presidency is the last presidency where they're going to have unequivocal bipartisan support.
This is why I've been trying to urge Democrats, both behind closed doors and publicly, to take a stronger stance against Israel. Okay? You cannot have a guy like Tucker Carlson lead the conversation on Israel. The Democrats, as a national party, have to universally oppose Israel. If you don't do that, a guy like Tucker Carlson, who has been leading the conversation for normies on the issue of Israel, will come out and destroy you. You can't play catch up by the time the election comes around where you're like, oh, well, we also want to do defensive weapons to Israel, but no offensive weapons. No, you'll fucking lose. You'll lose. 100%. Whoever is first to market with a convincing and earnest anti-Israel position will win. It does not matter how much AIPAC is spending right now. Even Nita Allam is a great example of this. A short-lived campaign that came out of nowhere, okay? Was almost capable of taking out a multiple-term incumbent, Valerie Foushee, that was getting the backing from every party instrument, and also on top of that was getting getting support from AIPAC subsidiaries too. And yeah, I do think a lot of it pains me to say this, but I think a lot of leftists would vote for Tucker Carlson over Gavin Newsom. Yes. I think a lot of normies would vote for Tucker Carlson over Gavin Newsom. 100%. Yeah. I'm fearful of this reality.
Period. You
can't make Tucker Carlson be the convincing anti-Israel guy. This takes time. Democrats are already losing this battle.
Every Thomas Massey, and there's a whole army of them coming at some point because everyone can see what's going on. And you can shut down X, and you can shut down the internet. You can be like Great Britain and arrest people who protest Israel, but attitudes are not going to revert to what they were 5 years ago. Sorry. And they know this. So this is their last chance.
He's right, by the way. He is completely right on this. The real issue here is that Tucker is the one saying it. Why aren't Democrats the ones saying it? Why are Democrats running away from other Democrat-adjacent content creators who are saying it? People like myself. Think. You need to lean into this. This is where the base is, across the fucking board. You're never going to win the evangelical right that has unlimited appetite for death and destruction over there and love Israel, okay? If you listen to AIPAC lobbyists, if you listen to pro-Israel lobbyists and people with a tremendous amount of influence capabilities that are constantly making phone calls anytime a Democrat says anything about Israel, so then you have to like manage your your rhetoric around this issue in a way that doesn't offend these fucking psychos, you are giving ground to a right-wing populist, just like Donald Trump did initially. This was the pre-October 7 election, right? Donald Trump won, I mean, where Democrats were so predisposed with a pro-corporate sentiment that was supposed to be like responsible governance that Donald Trump was able to come out and look like a more moderate figure than he actually was on a lot of issues, on issues that Americans care about, right? Like, I'm not going to touch Medicare. I'm not going to touch Social Security. I'm not going to do wars. These were all moderate positions from a Republican that most Republicans had never heard of. That's why he was able to win so much favor with like normies and low propensity voters. You can't defeat that with wishy-washy, middle of the ground bullshit, middle of the road bullshit. You can't defeat that kind of narrative. You only allow your opposition to lie about their positions if you are not making a convincing argument. If you're not even interested in making a convincing argument, if you're not even interested in hearing why they are popular. This is why Kamala Harris lost. And this is precisely why, if Tucker Carlson actually runs for office, he will come out of that primary the victor, 100%, and he will defeat the overwhelming majority of Democrats right now as they stand. And yes, that even includes, like, you know, left flank Democrats as well. Unless they dramatically change their the way that they communicate about these issues, specifically, you know, be unshakable, be more convincing in your advocacy. Don't do this like wishy-washy shit.
What's so amazing is that Israel, which at least is acting in what it perceives to be its own national interest, is joined by its shills in the United States, of course. But really, its only other ally in this is the American news media, whose job it is to tell you the truth and inform you as to what's happening, to tell you, hey, wake up. The world could be changing, and it's going to affect you and your family. That's their job. And instead, they've been lulling you to sleep with the same variety of transparent lies and propaganda.
Yeah. Who's fighting harder against this war, Tucker Carlson or Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries? Not close, right? It's embarrassing to have Democratic leaders outflanked on the anti-war position by some on the right. Democratic leaders are pathetic, controlled opposition, useless, right? And there's truth to what Jank is saying, but there's also truth to what Edgar Mentum is saying. So are you going to ever mention that there's absolutely no anti-war constituency whatsoever among the MAGA right? Or are we just going to play dolls with influencers and TV hosts forever? To which I responded with, I think about this a lot. Tucker's platform is large, and I always assumed it was MAGA. But 85% of MAGA loves the Iran war. Does this mean that independents and Dems are watching Tucker now? Is MAGA still watching him and just simply disagreeing? Matthew Hasan says, I know lots of normies who watch Tucker now for his anti-war, anti-Israel content, which is true. I see it too. I'll get on a plane sometimes, and the motherfucker sitting next to me is watching Tucker Carlson. Now, of course, I'm sitting in business, so maybe that's the reason, but it's still crazy that I'm just seeing it out in the fucking wild, right? I don't see Tucker as a realistic populist candidate for the right in 2028, just neocons and losers and probably fucked after Trump. Tucker Carlson is the only path for salvation for the right. Maybe J.D. Vance might have a shot at it, but much more limited shot at it. Tucker Carlson is the true spiritual successor of the MAGA movement. He is the only one who is capable of carrying the base. I fucking said that for the last decade almost, okay? I've been saying that nonstop. I've been warning about Tucker Carlson since 2016. He is one of the most dangerous right-wing figures in this country. JD Vance is awfully quiet lately. That's because he has ambitions for 2028 and he knows to shut the fuck up right now. Because if he was held responsible for what's going on right now, there's a horrifying reality for his prospects, for his 2028 prospects.
Again Friday and are now hovering around $100 a barrel. Now, that's led to a spike in prices at the pump for consumers. As you may have seen, the national average for a gallon of regular gas is now $3.67, while diesel, which is used for trucking goods, is near $5.
If Tucker won the presidency, do you think he would actually decouple at least distance from Israel? I don't know what he would do, man. I don't know. I think he's a grifter at the end of the day, so I don't know. But the way he communicates on these issues is like, do you want to live in a country that is a objectively white supremacist fascist state that's purging 65 million people that Tucker calls migrants, you know, that happen to have a Latino background? But also simultaneously, we have maybe decoupled from Israel. I think that's a really dangerous gamble. Because a lot of people will take that.
A gallon. Charlie D'Agata is in Tel Aviv with the details on a new U.S. troop escalation in the region. Charlie, good morning.
Good morning to you. Got us right in the middle of a dust storm here. So going into week 3 of this war, and Pentagon sources tell CBS News the U.S. is preparing to send thousands more troops, including a Marine Expeditionary Unit consisting of around 2,500 Marines, as President Trump claims to have launched one of the biggest raids yet on Iran. The president posted video on his Truth Social site claiming to show the bombardment of Karg Island, a critical terminal for 90% of Iran's crude oil exports. But he said only military facilities had been struck, not the island's energy infrastructure. Trump wrote, should Iran or anyone else do anything to interfere with the free and safe passage of ships through the Strait of Hormuz, I will immediately reconsider this decision. But Iran's stranglehold on that key waterway has only tightened, with more than 16 tankers and other vessels struck, sending global oil prices and other commodities soaring. Trump suggested once again that U.S. Navy ships could soon begin escorting tankers, but couldn't say when the war would end.
I can't tell you that. I mean, I have my own idea, but what good does it do? It'll be as long as it's necessary. They've been decimated. Their country's in bad shape. The whole thing is collapsing.
The Iranian capital was hit overnight in a new wave of airstrikes. But the intense bombing hasn't stopped the Iranian regime publicly signaling its defiance. President Masoud Pezeshkian and several high-ranking officials taking part in open-air rallies in Tehran. Iranian missiles and drones and their proxies continued targeting American facilities. The U.S. embassy in the Iraqi capital, Baghdad, hit in a missile attack. And 2 days after 6 service members died when their refueling aircraft crashed in Iraq, U.S. officials say 5 Air Force refueling planes had been struck and damaged on the ground at an air base in Saudi Arabia.
Iran has threatened to turn U.S.-linked oil facilities to a pile of ashes as this war widens and threatens to trigger a global oil crisis. Adriana?
Charlie, thank you so much.
Well, we can get all the very latest on this now with our military analyst, Sean Bell. Good morning.
Morning, Sam.
Sean, good to have you in the studio as always. Karg Island, smaller than Gibraltar, hugely significant though. Just explain why.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? For many people have never even heard of it. It's about 5 miles long, about 2.5 miles wide. It's right at the northern edge of the Persian Gulf. It's actually about 300 miles, I think, away from the Straits of Hormuz, but it is where 90% of Iran's oil flows out of, and therefore, you know, for the exports anyway, 7 million barrels a day. They can cope with up to 10 of these massive supertankers at any one time. So President Trump's claimed he's obliterated all the military targets on there. That includes airfields, air traffic control towers. There's some helipads, and there's also some naval personnel there. What's interesting that when he says he's obliterated, he's talked about the airfields. I've seen.
Does chat know how a refueling plane works? I'm surprised they don't crash more on their own. Jesus fucking Christ, it looks so sketch, brother. It's entirely designed to do that sketch thing. I know. When I first found out about the existence of refueling planes, I was also confused. Okay, it's insane. It is truly insane, but it is the purpose of the plane is to do that thing that you consider sketch. So, you know, you'd probably be seeing a lot more crashes if it was happening frequently, because they're used quite frequently, especially in this campaign, because Iran has been bombing American military bases in the region, which offends some of my Gulf fans. But that's part of the reason why Iran is bombing the military bases, so that America can't use those military bases to launch aerial campaigns.
Some of the video of the strikes.
Yeah, what's your assessment?
Well, the trouble is with airfields is they're very, very big bits of concrete, and they've certainly plugged holes into each of the runways. But we used to do that in the Cold War, and it doesn't take much to fill a tipper up with gravel, pour it on, put a layer of tarmac on the top of it, and off you go again.
Yeah, the Boeing KC-135 Stratotanker fleet is over 65 years old, with the first aircraft delivered to the U.S. Air Force in June 1957. While production ran from 55 to 65, the aircraft remains in active service, with many airframes expected to fly at least until 2030, making them some of the oldest military planes in operation. Yes. The new version, the Boeing has made new Stratotankers as well. I forget what they're called, but the KC-135 Stratotanker is very, very old. KC-46, yes, thank you. The KC-46 is a newer version, but the American military still very much uses the old ones.
So it's not a permanent
potholes, effectively.
Well, yeah, they're big.
I can't believe it's so old, brother. That's planes, baby. That's planes. That's how it works. A lot of the planes that are still being used are old as fuck. That's just how planes work.
Are effectively potholes. I think the interesting bit,
especially from an era when, you know, these things were built to last. Maybe F-35s are a different reality. I don't know. We haven't seen them utilized over an extended period of time. But there was a point in time when planes were built, when American military equipment was still built for utility. American military equipment was built for utility. It was built to last. It wasn't built for expansive defense contracts. We live in a very different reality now. The reality that we live in is constant corner cutting, both on the commercial side and even on the defense side, right? Where production is not designed with maximum efficiency in mind, but more so movable parts that are expensive with some level of planned obsolescence, you know?
About the story, though, is that President Trump didn't target the oil and made a really big thing about that. And I think if you look more widely, a lot of that oil goes to China. And therefore, if he was to take that out, you might risk the ire of China and the whole thing starts to expand even further.
Yeah.
So, yeah, a tailored strike, interesting to see what impact it has.
There's been a lot of talk about the US and whether or not it would be willing.
Right to repair gone. There is one right to repair country. Iran. Iran loves doing right to repair on their old gear that they got back when they were an American puppet state. Half of their fucking military equipment, half of their like Air Force, all of their Air Force is like either shitty Russian equipment that they got, like the trainer planes, the trainer fighter jets, or, you know, shit that they had, like the F4s and things that they had from back in the day when they had, you know, when they were an American puppet state.
The consensus seems to be not to send boots, have boots on the ground. Where does this plan of sending 5,000 Marines sit within that as a wider context?
Yeah, it's fascinating because it's been played out. And let's be quite clear, these US Marines are probably a couple of weeks away. So we're not talking about any time soon. And we've just finished the first 2 weeks of the war. So 2 weeks is a long time in terms of this Iran conflict. And it might therefore be nothing more than a threat by President Trump, just to show that he is willing to consider boots on the ground. I think what's been fascinating is that the war general has been almost migrated into two separate wars. There's the military parts of it, American superpower dominating everything on the ground. There's no question, you know, Iran can't win that. But it's also this sort of ideological war that's going on. And unless America is prepared to put boots on the ground, it's pretty clear air power alone will not change Iran's intent to build a nuclear weapon and will not stop its intent to keep attacking American forces as they're there. So I do think that, you know, Iran is left with 70,000 Shahed drones, probably. Still got a leadership in place. It may not be the original leadership, but sounds even more hardline. Mushtaba sounds like sort of version 2.0, but even more vengeful. And then you've got proxy still active and the Straits of Hormuz. And therefore, I suspect the Marines are, how do you solve that Straits of Hormuz problem?
It seems to be an impossible conundrum, doesn't it?
Yeah, and the longer that Iran looks after that Straits of Hormuz, the more it can do this whenever it likes. And I was chatting to some military colleagues earlier in the week, and they said if you really want to solve that, you've actually got to invade Iran, at least, and take a section of ground all the way around the Straits and actually guarantee its security. Now, whether or not President Trump has got the appetite for that, because the one thing against President Trump in all of this...
Guys, there's another way, okay? There's another way. It's called diplomacy. It's called leaning into and conceding to Iranian demands. What happened? Dude, I don't understand. Everyone was talking about, you know, American dicks. They're hard. They're so hard right now. B-2 bombers, they're hungry. Feed me the three gorgeous damn, they used to say. What fucking happened? Now you got Israel running critically low on interceptors. What the fuck happened? Where are they at now? Where's the Asmin Goy squad? Coming in here being like, nah, dog, America's got it. Don't fucking worry about it, King. America's got it, bro. Trust. This isn't like direct warfare. This isn't about just, you know, troop positions on the ground. This is economic warfare, okay? It's economic warfare. Iran knows that that red button is always there. That red button is not nukes. That red button is closing the Strait of Hormuz. They've now hit that red button. But there's another even bigger red button, which is damming the Strait of Hormuz and completely shuttering all capacity to move any oil tankers through that region. Right now, they keep saying, look, if you deal with us, if you give us assurances and we can trust you, we'll let your oil tankers through. They're just saying we control the Strait of Hormuz currently. If they were to mine it, then, you know, it's over. At that point, they no longer technically control the Strait of Hormuz. Now they've completely shut it down.
However, should Iran or anyone else do anything to interfere with the free and safe passage of ships through the Strait of Hormuz, I will immediately...
I think you underestimate American brutality. They don't need to land ground troops if they just nuke the Iranian coastline. I don't know how to answer these sorts of statements. Yes, guys, America is crazy. I know. They could technically nuke the entirety of Iran, okay? They could do that. They have nukes. They've used nukes in the past, okay? But that's not how this stuff works, because every escalation from America will meet escalation from Iran. That's what's holding them back. Why haven't they nuked Iran? I don't know. Well, nukes are an entirely different conversation anyway, because then if they use nukes, then Russia uses nukes in Ukraine. You know what I mean? It's just, It's unstoppable. From that point on, everybody's using nukes.
Reconsider this decision. Let me start by asking you about what has happened on Kharg Island and what is Iran's response to these strikes.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I think our armed forces have already answered that they would retaliate if our oil and energy infrastructure are attacked. And they will attack any energy infrastructure in the region which belongs to an American company or an American company is a shareholder. So the reaction would be clear. Last night, they have attacked Kharg Island and Abu Musa Island with, the artillery rockets.
By the way, the strikes on Kharg Island isn't new. They did it in the first day too. In the opening salvo, the American and Israeli forces also hit Kharg Island. They hit, I think they hit the anti-air defense systems on Kharg Island in the opening salvo anyway. So it's not the first time they've done it.
System, HIMARS as they call it, which is a low-range rockets, and they have done it from the soil of our neighbors. And this is crystal clear that now they are using the territory of our neighbors to attack us by these kind of, rockets. And this is absolutely unacceptable.
Which neighbors, sir?
Well, the last night attacks were tracked by our forces, and now it is clear that they are fired from UAE, from two locations in the UAE, from in Ras Al Khaimah, and from a location very close to the city of Dubai. And it is very...
Dude, if Americans think Abbas Araghchi is, a bisexual awakening for many Americans, okay, if they think he's like hot and cool and smart, wait till you fucking hear from Chinese, foreign policy heads as well. Any sort of entanglement with a foreign adversary that causes people to like really reconsider how other countries actually have competent leadership as opposed to our dumbass leadership. You're in for a wild journey when you see what the Chinese guys are saying as well. You sound jealous? How can you not be? I mean, this dude is smart, okay? I'm sorry. This dude is a smart guy. Okay? Our dudes are not fucking smart. Our dudes are morons. I'm desperate. I'm desperate for like an intelligent person. I'm desperate for intelligent leadership, because intelligent leadership would not be doing this anyway. They would, at the very least, like try to engage in diplomacy with Iran. They wouldn't have allowed Israel to just fucking dominate the region like this. He is also not smart. Come on. Yeah, no, totally. You're right. Abbas Araghchi is not smart at all. First of all, in comparison to what, like fucking Pete Hegseth or Marco Rubio or Donald Trump, most people are smart. Okay? And not only that, but he is just across the board intelligent. You're a moron if you think that he's not. That's one of the biggest copes from the American side so far, is that they think like Iran, they think Iran is Afghanistan. For these Amerifats. Yeah. Yeah, he was a teacher. Well, didn't he teach? Was it Araghchi that taught at Exeter? Or was it Largiani that taught at Exeter? Half of these dudes literally taught in colleges in the United States of America. They have fucking PhDs. Where did Araghchi teach? Why are you dissing Afghans, bro? Afghanistan does not have the same capabilities of Iran. It wasn't like a fully functioning sovereign nation state. It has been ripped apart by foreign invasions over and over again. He has a PhD from Kent on political thought, and he did his thesis under a Marxist scholar. Yeah, his thesis is about Islam and the political economy, right? I think. He's an Iranian diplomat, served previously as a spokesperson for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and an Iranian ambassador to Finland and Japan. He is he also fought in the Iran-Iraq War. Got his bachelor's degree in international relations from the School of International Relations affiliated with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He then obtained a master's degree in political science from the Islamic Azad University in Tehran. Additionally, Arakshi holds a PhD in political thought from the University of Kent with a thesis entitled The Evolution of the Concept of Political Participation in the 20th Century Islamic Political Thought. Supervised by David McClellan, a scholar of Marxism, the thesis argues that modern Islamic political thought has attempted to reconcile the doctrine of divine sovereignty with the concept of popular sovereignty by incorporating aspects of Western democratic theory into Islamic principles, thereby developing democratic institutions within the framework of Islamic law. Azad University sucks, though. I'm sorry. Okay, but he still has a PhD from, don't worry, a good university, one that you can, you know, put your teeth on, right? Amerifat's thinking these guys are Team America villains. Yeah. The Ayatollah supposes, this is Ali Lajiani. Ali Lajiani is a Kantian philosopher. Ayatollah's supposed successor at the time, which, you know, he's not, right? He's the IRGC guy. He's the commander of the military. But yeah, his thesis was on Kant's philosophy of mathematics. So he's demonstrably not anti-Western in some dogmatic way. None of these guys are actually anti-Western. Iran's biggest failure, in my opinion, as far as his foreign policy has been, that they literally have actively tried to play ball with the United States of America over and over again. And look what that has given them. Okay, nothing, just death and destruction.
Dangerous that they use highly populated areas to launch, rockets against us. We would certainly retaliate, but we try to be careful.
Putin is now, I suppose, no. Vladimir Putin, 2 years into fucking invading Ukraine, had Tucker Carlson on in a visit that I think is probably the most like pro foreign government programming I've ever seen. And I say this as someone who went to China and loved China and thought it was awesome and spoke to Chinese state television, right? In that interview, Vladimir Putin straight up said to Tucker Carlson, why couldn't we be your Israel? We wanted to always be your Israel. And I think that's sincere. The bread interview, yeah.
Not to attack any populated area.
Is there any sign that Iran is prepared to allow passage of the Strait of Hormuz? Will the Strait of Hormuz remain closed so long as this war continues?
Well, as a matter of fact, the Strait of Hormuz is open. It is only closed to the tankers and ships belong to our enemies, to those who are attacking us and their allies. Others are free to pass. Of course, many of them prefer not, because of their security concerns. This has nothing to do with us. And at the same time, there are many tankers and ships who are passing through the Strait of Hormuz, and I can say that the strait is not closed, but it is only closed to American, Israeli, ships and tankers, and not to others.
We know that Iran has elected a new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei. He has not been seen yet in public, though he did issue a statement yesterday. I'm sure you have heard the comments from the U.S. Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, who has said that he claimed the supreme leader is wounded and likely disfigured. What is the status of the supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei?
Well, they have made so many claims like this. Yesterday, they said that all Iranian authorities are in the bunkers, but at the same time, the whole world saw our president, the Speaker of Parliament, everybody, the Secretary of our National Security Council, everybody was in the street among the people who demonstrated. So there are lots of accusations like that. They will see soon, I guess, that there is no problem with the new supreme leader. He sent his message yesterday, and he will perform his duties. He is performing his duties according to the Constitution, and he will continue to do that. I think by now it should have been clear, and it should have been known for everyone.
You know, this is a different war because MS Now would never have Russian foreign ministers on. It's actually really interesting because it's not just MS Now. NBC is having the foreign minister on. CNN, I believe. Well, actually, CNN might not have had Arakshi on. They probably are. They're way more predisposed to propaganda. I think CBS and CNN are really aggro as of late. But PBS has had him on. And you're right. It is different. It's different because we are objectively in the wrong. Like a couple months ago, having someone with any affiliation with the IRGC at all, any affiliation with the Iranian government at all, was going to create an inherently hostile interview for, the horrible state repression against the Iranian protesters. Now they're objectively on the wronged side of things. Not the wrong side of things, but they're objectively being attacked unjustifiably. And there's no real argument for why we did this. It's just Israel wanted it to happen, and it's deeply unpopular. And there's a lot of interest in hearing from the Iranian state's side, the Iranian state's position. Okay, stop milking him. Just because someone gave lectures in university doesn't mean they're correct everywhere. The statement is hella biased. What he's saying is correct, but I don't align with his ideology. Come on, man, just read about him, brother. All bets are off on domestic considerations when a country is being dominated by the largest imperial superpower. You understand that, right? That's like, this is how this goes. This is part of the reason why even Americans now in this like current media environment are much more sympathetic to the side of the Iranians. I mean, look at the comments on fucking YouTube. His use of English is better than our president. You won't see this interview on Fox News. The interview is great, asking without interrupting. Good to know the other side of the story. A lot of Americans want to hear from Iran. Glad you had the opportunity. He's willing to speak to the world. It's like people talking to me about Hamas. They're like, well, Hamas is an Islamist movement. I don't give a fuck, dude. They're being genocided. What do you mean? Oh, they're an Islamist movement? I can't believe it. Oh, no. Like, what? That has no consideration at this point. Okay? That has no consideration. The IRGC's domestic repression has no consideration in this conversation. You want to know why? Because America and Israel are engaging in chemical warfare. So understand how hard it is as an Iranian seeing this, where these guys are fucking monsters, but since America and Israel are attacking randomly, Iran is coming out as the good guys. Yeah, that's what I've been saying. It definitely still has consideration. It fucking does not. You want to know why? Because as brutal and as ruthless as the IRGC might have been, okay, right now, they're the only thing holding the entire country together. They're the only thing maintaining Iranian sovereignty. I'm sure there's plenty of Iranians in Iran right now, as I've said from the beginning, even before this bombing campaign started, that will very quickly recognize that the Israeli goals here, which are the only goals that matter, the American goals as it stands currently, unfortunately, do not matter. And I say unfortunately because Israel is so fucking devastating a force in the region that like even the American goals of like negotiating with the IRGC to de-escalate would be objectively better than the Israeli goals of complete destabilization and collapse of Iran as a country. That is the only goal here. That's the only victory condition for Israel, or at least it was the victory condition for Israel. And I believe that they're also softening their approach as well. Benjamin Netanyahu actually came out with his first press conference since the war began and said something of the sort, basically saying like, oh, we might not be able to, destroy Iran. We might have a weakened IRGC. There's just so many examples of what you're talking about. I don't understand why people just flip shit about the current thing, and then years later, they're just like, oh yeah, maybe they were better off. I know. This is one of the instances where people are coming to terms with it much faster, in my opinion. That's the thing. It's kind of like this, okay? In a hypothetical scenario, we're all fighting amongst ourselves, right? In the United States of America. We all hate the government. Some people love the government. I hate the MAGA cattle. They fucking, they are the most damaging force around the planet, and certainly to American ambitions as well, right? They're destroying this country. They're destroying this country, and they're servile cattle. They're fucking idiots. However, in a hypothetical scenario, if like an alien force were to invade the entire planet, or the United States of America in particular, we would all rise up against that alien force. We would unite against the aliens, right? It wouldn't matter any longer who is MAGA or who is a communist, who's a socialist, who's a liberal. All of a sudden, everyone would be focusing on purging the fucking aliens. That's it. That's usually how this works. Right now, Iran is actively being destroyed. I'm just saying you don't have to choose between Iran and Israel. No, that's fucking bullshit, okay? Yes, you do have to choose between Iran and Israel. I absolutely choose Iran over Israel. That's ridiculous. Regardless of its domestic repression, regardless of its like resistance forces in the region, Iran's crimes do not even meet half the standard of what Israel does on a good day. Okay? It's ridiculous. It's fucking ridiculous, dude. No, I'm not doing this wishy-washy centrist fucking bullshit. It's completely ridiculous. I think it's cope. A lot of people recognize that it's virtually impossible to defend this war, so they just have to do this cope where they go like, they try to hit the center pivot. Like Israel engaged in chemical war for over 15 million Iranian people living in Tehran by blowing up their fucking refineries. Acid rain. Black clouds over the sky of Tehran. And acid rain over a population of 15 million people. There is no coming back from that. You can say that is objectively worse. If you do not care about Churchill's crimes because he was on the right side of World War II, if you do not care about domestic issues like segregation in America when talking about Easy Company and what they were doing against the Nazi scourge, you can't be talking about the IRGC like that at this moment. Okay? That's it. A lot of Americans don't want to reckon with that reality that, like, we are the bad guys. Like, we as individuals are not bad, but our country, as long as it's currently aiding Israel, as long as it doesn't change its foreign policy approach, is doing a metric ton of awful shit. And guess what? All that awful shit is packaged as though it's helpful for the average American. But in this current media environment, that is making it so much more difficult to sell to people. Because people now have the capacity, unlike ever before, to look at that and go, no, how is this helpful for me? You said this in Iraq. You said this in Afghanistan. I didn't see any of the fucking benefits. You're lying. Because at the end of the day, foreign policy and domestic policy are not decoupled from one another. They work side by side with one another. A lot of people refuse to comprehend that here in the United States of America because a pliant media apparatus has removed those things. Oh, we wage war over there. All the tax dollars are funneled into that endeavor. But, you know, that's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. Why? Because these guys hate our freedoms. They say death to America. Why do they say death to America? Don't ask that question, right? They're a real threat. Iran is a real threat to America. When is Iran? Iran has never been a real threat to America. Never. While we have been a real threat to Iran and actively tried to kill Iranians, sometimes succeeded in killing Iranians, like in the Iraq-Iran war, right? And have destroyed Iran's economy, destroyed Iran's population with our crippling sanctions, killing people in Iran with those sanctions, making life uninhabitable. Iran has never presented a real significant threat to American existence, not even one bit. It's just a lie. It's a lie we've told ourselves. It's a lie that mainstream news has told Americans over and over again for 47 fucking years. And many Americans still have that residue, that American chauvinist residue. They think, no, this is probably for some good reason because my government would never lie to me. My government wouldn't just like tell me a complete falsehood in an effort to get me to be on board with this war that we're waging. It's becoming much more difficult to sell this lie to Americans, especially when Trump is very vulgar in the way that he communicates to his own base and to everyone else that is listening, where he just says, no, we're doing it for oil. And Americans hear that and they go, what the fuck? That's ridiculous. You got to stop believing people when they say Hasan hates America, for example, okay? If I hated America, I wouldn't live here. I'd live somewhere else, okay? I don't hate Americans. I want what's best for Americans. That's why I advocate for the things that I advocate for. Some people understand it. Many people still refuse to recognize it, but they will. They will eventually. Every single day, there's a new person that awakens to the realities that American imperialism is not actually good for ordinary Americans at all. That's just a lie that they've been sold. And it's a hard hill to climb for many people if that's all you've known. It's patriotism, right? Like my country wouldn't be doing horrible shit overseas for no reason or for reasons that don't actually benefit me at all, but benefit this faceless, lifeless, parasitic capital owning class that is not even like American in the same way that you and I are, but instead they're multinationals. Like they can live wherever the fuck they want and often do. They steal your taxes. They funnel your productive output back into this war machine that ends up lining their fucking wallets. They often threaten with capital extraction, capital flight. Ridiculous, right? They're all in a club that you will never be a part of and that you probably don't want to be a part of, especially with this Epstein shit. Now we know what they're doing in that club. They're doing pedophilia. That's what the club is. But I think as like the everyday material conditions of ordinary Americans worsen day in, day out, it becomes much more difficult to steadily engage with this kind of propaganda, to believe this kind of propaganda.
That our system is very well rooted in the society. The Islamic Republic is a system which is not dependent on any individual or any group of people. It is well established. It's a very well established political structure, and deep state is doing its.
The idea of economical warfare by keeping the strait closed only for U.S. and Israel, but open for everyone else, seems to be a contradiction. What is the purpose of doing that if the goal is to economically strangle the world to make Trump surrender? Initially, they said it'd be closed to everyone except China, which makes sense in the strategy. What am I missing? It is currently just closed to everyone but China and Iran. That's what's going on. Their goal here is, look, the way that America and the Western world has designed the global economy is that it's deeply interconnected, okay? Guy said it will be open for everyone except USA and Israel in the video you're watching. Yes, he's saying as long as they meet conditions, as long as they get assurances from like India, for example, they will allow passage, safe passage of oil tankers. For example, They've said that as long as you trade the oil not on the dollar, but instead on the Chinese yuan, they'll allow safe passage. The point here is to show the world that they control the Strait of Hormuz. The point here is to incentivize other countries from decoupling from the United States of America and Israel. This is also part of the reason why they don't actually mine the Strait of Hormuz, because this is a big tool for them. It's a big economic warfare tool for them currently. Ripping apart the dominance of the petrodollar is huge because it weakens America's ability to control the world. It weakens America's ability to control the global economy. Iran has allowed some Indian vessels to sail through the Strait of Hormuz. Tehran's ambassador to India, Mohammad Fatali, said on Saturday, confirming a rare exception to the blockade that has disrupted global oil supplies. The reason why they did this is because India had seized Iranian oil tankers in the past. So in exchange for the release of Iranian oil tankers that were seized by the Indian by the Indian Navy, they allowed some Indian oil tankers to pass through. So they're cutting out deals for themselves. Fatali did not confirm the number of vessels that have been provided safe passage. He was speaking at a Broadcasters India Today's conclave in New Delhi. Since the United States and Israel launched a bombing campaign on Iran, Tehran has largely halted traffic through the strait, which runs past this coast, and through which around 20% of global oil and seaborne liquefied natural gas is supplied. So what they're trying to show the regional partners like India is that they're willing, they're a normal country. They're willing to play ball. They're willing to negotiate. They're willing to engage in diplomacy, right? This exposes the contradiction further that America, being led by Israel, is not engaged in stability. It's the Chinese gambit, okay? It's to show the rest of the adults, rest of the sovereign leaders, that they have an opportunity here to go to Iran directly and deal with Iran directly rather than lean into American dominance. They want the rest of the world, or at least the regional partners, to decouple from their over-reliance on American hegemony. They're doing this twofold. By one, showcasing that American military dominance is a paper tiger, which they have done so effectively. And in an effort to engage in self-preservation, they are trying to showcase to the rest of the world, the rest of the regional powers, and anyone that's paying attention, that they are a nation that is interested exclusively in sovereignty, self-preservation, and they will always take the path of diplomacy, heightening the contradiction between them as a responsible state actor and America and Israel that are irresponsible state actors. This is also the same reason why they didn't immediately escalate by blowing up the refineries in the entire region. They want to maintain that as a threat, because if you release all your cards all at once, you don't have any cards to play. You can't do diplomacy at all, for example. And then it's much easier for the rest of the world to turn around and be like, all right, well, it's war now. We have to side with America. We have to make America destroy Iran. We have to do everything we can to help America, to aid America destroy Iran, because Iran has, Iran has nuked the global energy markets. Do you really think it's a paper tiger? I don't think they've busted out all the new tech they've developed since the last major war yet. They haven't even used the discombobulator that they used in Venezuela yet. American weapons are mighty and sophisticated. Okay? American weapons are mighty and sophisticated. We have the most expensive weapons, the most sophisticated weapons on the planet. This is true. Well, maybe not the Chinese ones. Who knows, right? But mighty and sophisticated weapons clearly do not make up for cheap and efficient drones. If the Iranian defense sector is built on engaging in a war of attrition that values strategy and efficiency over an expensive defense industry that's constantly, it's very bloated, very slow to develop, very slow to procure, much slower than other countries, really. As you can see, Iran is capable of putting a major dent in the American military might and confidence, right? It's not that our strategy is run by idiots. Our strategy, or obviously our strategy is run by idiots, but our defense industry is run by greed. Their defense industry is run by necessity. That is the difference here. That's why they build drones for $7,000 that can take out $1 billion military installation. Do you understand? I mean, we have seen versions of this already. Insurgencies that propped up in the power vacuum that we created in Iraq that endlessly engaged in battles with the mighty American military. Those people were fighting because they had no other option. Okay? And it made it very difficult to militarily dominate this country that is far smaller than Iran. Someone out there, of course, was making money because wars are not meant to be won. They're meant to continue. We know that. But that endless greed in the military-industrial complex has created major weakness for American national security and American interests in maintaining military hegemony around the globe. I'm just hoping they don't commit never before seen atrocities due to not achieving their goals easily. I mean, that's always an option. At the end of the day, America is a nuclear superpower. And you have to remember that. But the threat of other major powers also having nukes is obviously going to force America's hand into not deploying nukes.
Functions, is functioning, and everything is in place. So they shouldn't have any hope for anything happen to the individuals. The system is working. It worked properly after the assassination of and martyrdom of our supreme leader. You saw that nothing happened and everything remained in order, and still everything is under control.
I wanted to ask you about the war strategy from an Iranian perspective. Can you tell us right now, as you know, there has been reporting that both Russia and China are providing targeting intelligence to Iran to target either U.S. positions, facilities, infrastructure across the region. Can you confirm or deny whether Russia or China is providing military support and intelligence to Iran?
Well, Russia and China are our strategic partners, and we have had close cooperation in the past, which still continues, and that includes military cooperation as well. I'm not going into any details of that. A good cooperation with these two countries. Politically, economically, even militarily. To say once again that
it's not LA internet, bro. Is Iranian internet. Iranian internet is also kind of ass. So one thing I want to say is I like to look at things as optimistically as possible, even though things are devastating and horrifying and horrible. I don't think America taking a significant blow is necessarily bad for Americans. Okay? Weakening American empire and causing America to limit its military ambitions, especially if we have responsible politicians leading the new American trajectory, could be objectively good for not only the rest of the world, but also for Americans as well. If this causes us to be more restrained, if this causes us to deal This teaches us a valuable lesson to deal with countries with diplomacy. This will chart a very, very different path forward, a very positive path forward. That's what I want to create. That's the environment that I want to design. That's what I want to organize for. Okay? Imagine a world where we say, all right, you know what? We're going to lick our wounds and we are no longer going to have such expansive ambitions. Imagine a world where we say, hey, we got to cut Israel out of the equation. Sorry, Israel, you have to dial it back 1,000,000 times over. You can't do this anymore. We're not giving you unlimited funds, unlimited weapons. You're no longer allowed to blow up Lebanon and militarily invade Lebanon. We're no longer going to occupy 800 military bases. We're going to pull back from this. We're going to decrease our military budget. We're going to spend this wealth that we are creating on ourselves. That is a better future that I want to live in, a future that is better for everyday Americans, a future that is better for citizens living in the periphery. Okay? That's why, while my naysayers will turn around and say, Hasan, you hate America, you love America's enemies or whatever, I don't operate on that. I don't care. I don't think that anyone is truly evil, okay? Maybe Benjamin Netanyahu, maybe the Israeli government, for sure. But even then, I mean, I've talked to people, I've interviewed people in the Israeli Knesset, right? I don't care. I care about what you believe. I don't care about what your background is. I don't care about what you've done. I care about who you are now. That's why we say no war but class war.
This is not our war. This is an imposed war against us. We didn't start this war. It was an unprovoked, unwarranted, illegal act of aggression against us, and we are only defending ourselves, and we continue to defend ourselves as much as it takes and as long as it takes in order to end this war in a way that it won't be repeated in the future.
As you probably saw, the United Nations this week, UN Security Council passed a resolution condemning your attacks on your Arab neighbors. It received 130 co-sponsors, which is a very significant number. Your close allies that you just said are providing you support, Russia and China, they didn't veto that. They abstained from it, but they didn't veto it and allowed the resolution to pass. Do you think the global community has spoken clearly about the way Iran has conducted this war on its Arab neighbors with condemnation and calling on it to stop?
The Security Council is suffering from the lack of justice in its decisions and resolutions it makes. You know, how is it possible that the Security Council condemned us for defending ourselves and is not condemning the United States and Israel who started this aggression? So if they want to have a just, full decision or resolution which can work, they should consider all aspects of any event. You know, we are under attack. It was the United States and Israel who started this war. They deserve to be condemned, not us. What we are doing is...
Why did China and Russia not veto, though, betrayal? Because the UN General Assembly, they didn't veto, they abstained. If you recall, when Russia invaded Ukraine, Iran and China also didn't veto, but they also abstained. That's just normal foreign policy, normal global diplomacy. The calculation there is not to like stick your neck out, but instead to simply abstain, because ultimately it's or to remain neutral, because ultimately it's irrelevant. So there's no reason to eat like a significant political cost as a consequence of that. Iran doesn't have a veto. No, we're not talking about the Security Council. We're talking about the General Assembly. General Assembly. General Assembly. I'm not talking. He asked about the veto, but I'm talking about the Iran. Of course, Iran doesn't have veto powers. We're not talking about the Security Council. We're talking about the General Assembly. Why would I bring up Iran abstaining on Russia's invasion of Ukraine if I'm talking about the Security Council? Iran is not a part of the Security Council.
And this is why that, so many countries have become hopeless about the role of the Security Council, including the United States, who has decided to go for its own board of peace, or even for the...
In the UN Security Council, where the Russian Federation and China abstained, even if they have veto power, they're not going to stick their neck out for Iran in the same way that when Iran and China at the UN General Assembly, guys, stop spamming F. It's not me. It's his internet, okay? When they were also making a political statement about Russia's invasion of Ukraine, they also abstained in the UN General Assembly because the United Nations, both the Security Council and the United Nations General Assembly, are ultimately toothless institutions. It's simply just diplomatic theater, okay?
United States. The Council votes, politically and based on the interest of, certain
But Russia
countries.
was the aggressor, Iran is defending. That doesn't matter. What are you talking about? From their perspective, if you're a nation that's been dominated by Western superpowers, Russia's act is not read as an act of aggression. Russia's act is read as an act of engaging America in a proxy war to militarily engage with America and Western imperialist forces, the very same Western imperialist forces that have dominated your country, that have tried to dominate China. From their perspective, this is not about like, states don't think about issues from a moral perspective anyway, but states have goals. They have objectives. The primary one being sovereignty, okay? But these guys don't look at the situation from a moral infallibility. They look at the situation from the perspective of like, what are some of the superpowers? What are some of the global powers that are fighting back against these very same forces of imperialism that have been dominating them as well? That's the reason why a lot of people in the third world don't look to Ukraine as like a nation that is being destroyed, a nation that's being abused all the same as they have at times, but a nation that is unfortunately caught in the crosshairs of Western imperialism and the only country that is willing to fight back against Western imperialism militarily. Okay? And Ukraine understands this role as well. Ukraine totally understands this role. That's why Zelensky is running around saying like, oh, we'll help you destroy Iran, Mr. President. Oh, we'll talk to Reza Pahlavi. Every time. Or, statements that are often supportive of Israel. A lot of people who are pro-Ukraine in here, and I myself am in favor of Ukrainian sovereignty, of course, right? But a lot of people who have Ukrainian flags and Palestinian flags in their fucking bios, whenever asked about Zelensky's position on Israel, will say, well, what's he supposed to do? Okay, well, what's Iran supposed to do? Do you understand? If Ukraine has decided that the only way that they can achieve sovereignty is by leaning into Western powers, then what the fuck is Iran supposed to do? Iran has been dominated by Western forces for far longer than Ukraine has been dominated by Russia. This isn't to say that like Russia has not had ambitions of dominating Ukraine. Of course they have, politically especially, and now militarily. But it's been a longer time because the Iranian Revolution happened before Ukraine was carved out as a separate nation state.
And not based on realities, based on justice.
You do acknowledge, though, that Iran is targeting civilian targets across the Gulf countries, right? Because, you know, I've spoken to officials across the region, and many of the targets that have been hit are clearly civilian buildings. Why is Iran targeting civilian buildings and airports and commercial ports in Gulf countries that made clear they are not involved in these attacks against your country?
The CCs are not working.
No, it is clear that we are attacked from, unfortunately, their territories, from American bases and American military installations in the territory of the Persian Gulf countries. And this is very unfortunate. What we are doing as an...
Oh, my God. This guy's back. He's talking about... Oh, my Lord. Man, the resolution was about targeting Arab countries. Even Hamas told Iran to stop. First of all, no, they didn't. What you're talking about is potentially a disagreement within the Hamas Politburo, which literally is in fucking Doha. So they don't have a lot of other options there. And secondly, the Hamas military in Palestine, in Gaza, did not say that. As a matter of fact, they commended Iran's objectives. The Hamas Politburo is the civilian function of Hamas and is largely in Doha. Okay? Ultimately, the reason why these areas are getting targeted is because America is waging war not only against the Iranian military, but against the Iranian population and striking banks, for example. Iran obviously can't strike American banks in America, so Iran says, we're going to strike American banks in the region. UN experts criticize Security Council resolution condemning Iran. At least 2 UN special rapporteurs criticized the UN Security Council resolution condemning Iran strikes on GCC states and Jordan, saying it ignored the broader conflict. Professor Ben Saul, UN Special Rapporteur on Human Rights and Counterterrorism, said the Council condemned Iran's attacks on neutral states but failed to condemn the greater illegal aggression against Iran by the U.S. and Israel. Professor Balak Rishan Rajagopal, UN Special Rapporteur on Housing, called the resolution illegal and unprincipled, arguing it condemns Iran exercising its right to self-defense while ignoring the U.S.-Israeli attacks. The resolution passed 13-0 with Russia and China abstaining. It is ridiculous. And that's legitimate. Striking GCC. Brother, I don't think you understand something profoundly important. If you have American bases in your country and America is attacking a sovereign state, you are no longer anything but an American holdover state, okay? You are now America. American bases are America. They are pieces of the United States of America. What is so difficult to comprehend? What country on the fucking planet would say, no, it's fine. You can keep fucking launching strikes. And also, you can keep launching strikes from your soil. And you can actually fly your military gear from the military bases that are slammed to the fucking ass cheeks of Iran. The argument literally turns into, the argument unironically turns into, why did you put your country so close to my fucking bases? Why don't they target Azeri territories? They're literally for Israel. The reason they have, by the way, they have actually struck back against Azerbaijan as well. But they don't want to expand the conflict into a country that has total willingness to allow Israel to utilize their airspace in even more meaningful fashion, especially because they're currently waging their fucking war on their western flank. Azerbaijan would open up a new front from their northern flank. There's also a difference between Azerbaijan and Turkey and countries in the GCC. Countries in the GCC don't have standing military forces. Countries in the GCC do not present an additional threat. They are simply holdover states for American military bases. They're also closer in proximity to Iran and Iranian launchers. So the point is to destroy GCC economies. If Iran wanted to destroy the GCC economies, then Iran would destroy the GCC economies by just terrorizing the GCC, not just by mostly focusing their campaign on bases and American assets, but instead just by terrorizing the Gulf in general. They could launch 1 million fucking drones into civilian territory. They could mine the Strait. They could blow up the refineries. One must ask the question why they have not done so. I know you are singularly minded here, where you are basically operating on this weird notion that like Gulf states can have American military bases, American radar installations, American troops stationed in American military bases that can conduct espionage and direct bombing campaigns on Iran, a sovereign nation state, and then also not suffer any penalties for it. But that's not how the real world works, is it? If you're a regional partner so close to Iran, if you're a regional partner that's on the other side of the fucking Gulf, the Persian Gulf, then you have to play ball with your neighbor. This is not playing ball with your neighbor. If you literally set up military bases and allow the American government, the American military, to launch strikes at your neighbor, you're not being super neighborly. What do you think was eventually going to happen? I thought Western chauvinism was embarrassing. Now we have Western client chauvinism. I know. If you have military bases, in your country of a foreign nation state, you are no longer a sovereign country. This extends to Turkey as well. This extends to every country. But obviously, within the limited confines of waging a defensive war that Iran is currently waging, because Iran is waging a defensive war, okay, they're not expanding their strikes to other countries that have competent militaries that can actually punish Iran even further, make it more difficult for them to defend themselves. This is the reason why they're not hitting Azerbaijan, even though there is plenty of evidence that Azerbaijan is allowing Israeli Air Force to fly over Azeri airspace to conduct bombing campaigns on Iran. Like, they have limited tools here.
Of self-defense is to targeting American bases.
What would be an ethical way to help Iranians? Interviews showed they were at their breaking point of asking for outside intervention, but obviously not like this. So what, we just needed to do something more competent government without Israel involved? Yeah, I mean, breaking from Israel is a pretty effective way to help the Iranian population. Demanding an end to the sanctions regime that America has conducted. Also another way to allow Iranians to gain sovereignty. Countries that are under sanctions have a much harder time engaging in the democratic process because they're at a fucking choke point.
American installations, American assets, and American interests, which are unfortunately located in the territory of our neighbors. Just as an example, 2 days ago, the United States attacked one of our banks. They are doing, they are attacking our, cities and our and civilian targets. They attacked a school in Minab. It is very well known for the whole world. They have attacked some hospitals. Two days ago, they attacked a bank of Iran. A building belongs to a bank, and so we decided to retaliate in kind with the building into cities around us. So what we are doing is only the principle of an eye for an eye, which is very well known.
Let me ask you really quickly about the negotiations before the war started. Do you believe Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner were good faith negotiators conveying accurate information back to the White House about Iran's position during these negotiations? There's been some reports that you shouted at Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, that you threatened that you had enriched uranium to make 11 nuclear
This motherfucker smirking.
weapons. I want you to set the record straight on those negotiations in the final days before the war.
Well, I don't know what they have conveyed to their boss. What I know is that on 26 February, when we met in Geneva, we were able to make a good progress. As Omani Foreign Minister, the intermediator said it was a significant progress. And before he posted his tweet, he read it to both delegations, and both delegations accepted that, yes, this is the right, the right saying about what we have made today. Significant progress. This is what we were able to do it on 26 February. Well, the things which are said by U.S. interlocutors, I do.
Turkey doesn't have a base that belongs to a foreign country, only NATO bases. There's a big difference. Is there a big difference? Really? I don't know if you know this. I'm Turkish. And let me tell you, those are fucking American bases. Okay? When I was younger, we were allowed entry into said American bases. I was in a basketball league. We would have the only like American style pizza in the country on those bases. Those are American bases. Those are American nukes inside of American bases. Okay? The only reason why Iran doesn't attack Turkey is because they want to keep Turkey at arm's distance, okay? They want to keep Turkey at bay. They don't want to open up another front that they have to deal with, especially one with a standing military. That's why the USA can't fully use those bases. Yeah, in theory, the USA can't fully use the Gulf bases either. All the Gulf nation states said, oh, you can't use our airspace. But in practice, the reality is a little bit different, don't you think?
Understand why they are saying those things. They want to justify an unjustifiable act of aggression. So they are trying to make some excuses for themselves. I never said that we are going to make bombs. I said that we have 440 kilos of 60% enriched material, and that was not a secret. That is what is mentioned in the reports of the IAEA. So I said that, look, this is mentioned in the report. This, if enriched more, can...
Yeah, those fucking NATO bases were refueling planes during the fucking coup that took place, the failed coup that took place in Turkey. Those NATO bases were serving America's interests against Turkish sovereignty at that point.
Be good enough for
so funny.
10 bombs, as your own experts claims. So we are ready to give them up, to give them away. We are ready to dilute them, to downblend them into lower degrees. And by saying that, I wanted to say that the concession that we are making is really big. But how they have interpreted that, I don't know. Maybe because the lack of enough knowledge, maybe because of their intentions to justify, as I said, the act of aggression, which cannot be justified. I hope that the true story of what happened on 26 February in Geneva would become known to the people soon.
You support these guys? What do you mean? Support who? Be clear. Do I support Iranian sovereignty? Absolutely. Do I refuse to support American military action in Iran? Abso-fucking-lutely. I'm anti-war. Okay? Let's not play these fucking stupid-ass games. Oh, I guess you were against America. I'm against American war, okay? I'm against American wars of choice. I'm against American wars of choice conducted at the behest of Israel. Are you for Operation Epstein Fury? Are you that big of a cuck? What kind of benefits are you carving out for yourself? Nothing. It's not only damaging, it's not only destabilizing, it's not only devastating. There's a massive human death toll here. But it also doesn't even yield any benefits for you as an ordinary American. You just think that this is beneficial for you because America gets to flex its military might, and we're not even doing that right now. So you can't even get that across. You can't even get your fucking rocks off if that's what your goal was here, where you're like, yeah, our dicks are hard. You get to pay higher gas prices and higher prices for everything else because everything is revolves around high gas prices.
Mr. Foreign Minister, thank you so much for your time.
A deal. That is the reality.
Mr. Foreign Minister, thank you so much for your time. We're out of time. We certainly appreciate you joining us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Breaking overnight, a missile striking the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad, Iraq. Fire seen rising from the compound. After the strike, people seen clearing debris from a structure on the roof. This comes 2 weeks after the war on Iran began. Overnight, the U.S. launching an assault on the vital oil hub, Khadik Island. President Trump posting these videos online after saying the bombing raid totally obliterated every military target. The island, located in the Persian Gulf, processes 90% of Iran's oil exports, and it's around 300 miles away from the Strait of Hormuz. Trump warning in his post that the operation did not target the oil infrastructure on the island. However, should Iran or anyone else do anything to interfere with the free and safe passage of ships through the Strait of Hormuz, I will immediately reconsider this decision. The late-night assault coming after a day of escalating U.S.-Israeli strikes. In Tehran, dramatic new videos showing...
If a CRAM was really lost in the embassy strike, does a Caribbean hit moment and changes geopolitical calculations? I mean, that's what people are saying, but America's trying to say that it's just the helicopter landing pad that was blown up. And that's not just a CRAM, that's a CRAM being destroyed on top of American soil.